Have you ever felt more at home under a sky that wanted you dead than beneath the roof that raised you? I have. My name is Daniel Ruiz, Sergeant, 1st Battalion, 7th Marines. I spent 9 months in Afghanistan in a place the maps barely bothered to name. Out there among the dust and the heat and the constant possibility of dying, I felt something I never felt back home, felt whole. Out there, I knew who I was. I had one mission. I had brothers watching my back. There was a strange kind of peace in the firefights. The world narrowed down to what mattered. The sound of the rounds cracking past, the feel of my rifle's grip, the bark of orders from Maddox, our team leader, always calm, even when he was bleeding. You didn't think about tomorrow. Hell, you didn't even think about 10 minutes from now. You moved, you aimed, you fired. And somehow you kept breathing. Every firefight had its rhythm. It's a snap of gunfire, the rush of gravel under your boots, the thump of adrenaline turning your heartbeat into a war drum. Sometimes in the middle of it all, I caught myself smiling, not because I liked the fight, but because I understood it. Out there, life made sense. My fire team addicts sang, Alvarez, they were more than Marines. They were pieces of me. We knew each other's next move before we made it. We could read each other's silences better than any conversation. In those long stretches between patrols, we sat on ammo crates under a ripped tarp, sipping lukewarm instant coffee, talking about the dumbest things, baseball stats, bad movies, who we missed most. Alvarez used to write letters to his mom every Sunday on pink paper. He said it was her way of making sure he stood out to the mail clerk. Singer Corman told jokes right after he stitched you up. I once caught Maddox humming Johnny Cash during a mortar barrage. Those were my people, my world. Then came the day that changed everything. August 18th. I still remember the date. At strike, one click out. We sprinted, dust in our teeth, tates, hearts hammering. When we got there, the MRAP was flipped, smoking, bleeding fluids. Inside, Private Wheeler was trapped 19 years old. First deployment, still had acne under his helmet. We dug with our hands, with ammo cans, with anything. Flames crept in through the cracks. Dr. Singh crawled inside, risked his life to stop Wheeler from bleeding out. When we finally got him free, I looked into his eyes, and he whispered, "Don't tell my mom it hurts." We lied to him, told him he was going to be fine, told ourselves the same thing. And the chopper lifted him out. The dust it kicked up felt like it was trying to bury us with him, but we didn't stop. Couldn't. There were patrols to run, grids to clear, more men to protect. And that's the thing they don't tell you. The war doesn't wait for your grief to catch up. 3 nights later, we were ambushed. Pitch black. No moon. Just the sparks of gunfire lighting up the ridge. I remember hitting the dirt so hard I bit through my lip. I remember the calm, too. The terrifying calm that only comes when your body accepts the idea that this might be the end. What it wasn't. We pushed through, took the ridge, cleared the village. That was the last time I felt clear. The last time I felt like I knew what I was here to do. So when the orders came down, "You're heading home, pack your gear," I thought I'd feel relief. But all I felt was fear, because no one prepares you for the silence that follows the gunfire. No one teaches you how to come home to a world that hasn't teached while they become someone unrecognizable. I was leaving the battlefield, but the battlefield wasn't done with me. They said I was lucky to come back. But a part of me hadn't. I stepped off that plane at Camp Pendleton, boots still caked in Afghan dust. And there they were, my mom waving a flag, my sister crying, my dad trying not to. A welcome home banner, hugs, laughter, relief, but I couldn't feel any of it. I smiled. I hugged them back. I said all the right things, but my eyes kept scanning the rooftops. There was a rustle in the bushes behind the parking lot, and I stiffened. My hand twitched toward a weapon I wasn't carrying anymore. That's when I realized, I wasn't home. I was just in a different kind of war zone. One where no one else knew we were still fighting. We drove back to the neighborhood where I grew up, quiet streets, trimmed hedges, flags on porches. Everything in place, untouched. And yet, I felt like a ghost sliding into someone else's life. My old room was just how I left it, framed football jersey on the wall, high school trophies on a dusty shelf. But the man standing in the doorway wasn't the kid who'd lived there. My mom made carne asada that night, my favorite. Everyone laughed at the table. My uncle cracked a joke about how I'd finally earned the right to grow a real beard. I chuckled, nodded, kept chewing. But I couldn't stop hearing the clatter of metal trays in the chow tent. Couldn't stop looking at the kitchen window and imagining muzzle flashes in the dark. When I closed my eyes that night, I was back in Helmand. Civilian life moved fast, but felt strangely hollow. I got a job stocking shelves at a hardware store, or a name tag, smiled at customers, said have a nice day. People thanked me for my service like it was something I'd finished. But I hadn't. Every sound was too loud, every silence too deep. I hated the grocery store too bright, too crowded, flinched at the pop of a balloon, avoided parades, couldn't stand the 4th of July. Once, a kid dropped a soda can behind me, and I hit the ground before I realized what I was doing. Everyone just stared. People asked, "Are you okay now that you're back?" I wanted to say, I never really left. My buddies texted. Sometimes Maddox got out and started a welding business in Texas. Singh was thinking about nursing school. Alvarez stopped replying one day. I didn't ask why. I think I already knew. The worst part wasn't the nightmares, it wasn't the flashbacks, or the way I slept on the floor because beds felt too exposed. The worst part was the emptiness. In war, everything has weight. Every step, every breath. You matter because people depend on you. But here, in the aisles of a suburban hardware store, I was just another guy with a barcode scanner and a polite smile. No one depended on me. No one really saw me. At night, I'd sit in the driveway, engine running, staring at the garage door, sometimes for 10 minutes, sometimes an hour. I didn't know what I was waiting for. Maybe for something to give. Maybe for someone to ask the right question. But no one ever did. They assumed I was fine. I wasn't fine. I was functioning. There's a difference. They say the war ends when the last shot's fired. But for some of us, it never ends. It just follows. I fought every day, not the enemy, but memories I couldn't control. There were nights I couldn't sleep. I just couldn't refuse to. I was afraid of what I'd see when I closed my eyes. The flashes of muzzle fire. The whimper in Wheeler's voice. The sound of the rotor blades fading as the medevac lifted off. I'd lie awake in my room, staring at the ceiling fan, spinning like the chopper that didn't come fast enough. My body in a soft bed in California, but my brain still in Sangin, crouched behind a wall, waiting for a second blast. And when I did sleep, I'd wake drenched in sweat, fists clenched, heart racing like I'd just run a mile under fire. The world outside kept turning, people talking about celebrity weddings, football scores, who bought a new grill. I'd smile, nod, pretend I was in the room. But inside, I was miles away. I hated crowds, too many blind spots, hated loud restaurants, hated birthdays with popping balloons. Once, someone set off fireworks at the park across the street. I hit the ground before I even knew why. My neighbor's kid laughed. His mom gave me that look like I was broken. Maybe I was. I tried to hold down a job, hardware store, then warehouse, then a security gig at a mall. Nothing stuck. I either quit or got let go. Couldn't focus. Couldn't take orders from someone who'd never worn boots or carried a brother's body bag. My boss once told me, "You've got to leave that stuff behind, Ruiz." I wanted to scream. How? Tell me how to forget the sound a man makes when he realizes he's dying. Instead, I just nodded and didn't come back the next day. Relationships, forget it. I tried dating a woman named Claire. She was kind, smart. Asked about the Marines with genuine interest. But I couldn't give her more than half of me. The other half was still on patrol. She once reached for my hand while we were watching a movie. I flinched. Not because I didn't want it, because I hadn't seen it coming. We lasted 3 months. Drinking helped, till it didn't. What started as one buyer to unwind became 4, then whiskey with pills to take the edge off. Fa gave me prescriptions, Zoloft, Prazosin, a sleep aid, but I hated how they made me feel. Numb, slow, like I was wrapped in cotton. So I stopped taking them. Thought I could handle it on my own. Spoiler, I couldn't. I told myself I didn't need therapy. But the truth is, I was scared. Scared that saying it all out loud would make it real. And if I let it out, what if I couldn't put it back? I stopped answering texts, stopped returning calls, even from Singh, even from my mom. I spent whole days in that house without stepping outside. It's just me, a bottle, a loaded Glock in the drawer, and a silence loud enough to drown in. They don't warn you that the battlefield doesn't always have sand and gunfire. Sometimes it looks like your living room at 2 a.m. Sometimes it sounds like your own voice saying, "I don't want to do this anymore." The war had followed me. I was losing. They don't warn you that the battlefield doesn't always have sand and gunfire. Sometimes it looks like your living room at 2 a.m. Sometimes it sounds like your own voice saying, "I don't want to do this anymore." The war had followed me, and I was losing. It happened in a grocery store. Of all places, I was just there to grab coffee and bread. Seemed simple, normal, but then someone dropped a glass jar in the next aisle. It shattered loud, sudden, just like a pressure plate going off, and I was back there in the valley, in the dirt. In the moment before the explosion, I couldn't breathe. My chest locked. The shelves started closing in. I dropped the basket, knocked over a display. People were staring. Someone asked if I needed help, but all I heard was screaming. Not from them, from inside me. I ran, just left everything. Pushed through the sliding doors and bolted into the parking lot, gasping like I'd just escaped an ambush. That night, I didn't sleep, didn't speak. I sat on the edge of my bed until sunrise. It wasn't just panic, it was shame. I could handle a firefight in a foreign country, but not a grocery store in my own town. That broke something in me. A week later, I found myself parked near the overpass. You know, the kind of ones people don't come back from. I wasn't drunk. I wasn't high. I was just ... My Glock sat on the passenger seat, loaded, safety off. One clean motion, and it would all just stop: the noise, the flashbacks, the ache I couldn't name. The world felt quiet, peaceful even, and that's what scared me most. Because for the first time, peace didn't feel like the enemy. It felt like a release. I stared at that gun for a long time, and then, somewhere voice cut through. Not loud, not dramatic, just ... steady, it said. "You didn't survive the war just to lose to yourself." I broke down right there in that car. Ugly, gasping sobs. The kind you choke down for years until your chest gives out. And for the first time, I let it happen. I let myself feel it. The battlefield never ended. It just changed form. Out there it was IEDs and snipers. There it was silence and shame, isolation, guilt, memory. And if I didn't do anything, then peace would finish what war couldn't. That was the moment. The line in the sand. Either I let go of everything, or I start something again. Not just survive. Begin. A week after the overpass, I walked into a dusty little community center downtown. Didn't know why. Didn't have a plan. Just knew I couldn't do nothing anymore. There was a sign taped to the door. Veterans Peer Support. Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Inside, a handful of folding chairs, a coffee pot that had seen better years, and 6 guys who looked just like me. Tired, guarded, alive, but not really living. I almost turned around. Then one guy looked up, bald, tattooed forearms, and said, "You're late. Grab a chair." That night I heard stories that mirrored mine, different names, different wars, same ghosts. One guy hadn't slept in a bed in 2 years. Another had lost his wife because he couldn't open up. One just wanted to stop being afraid of silence. No one judged. No one fixed anything. They just sat with it. And somehow, that helped. I kept coming back. Week after week. Sometimes I spoke. Sometimes I just listened. Eventually I saw a therapist. A combat vet. Like me. He didn't throw words like healing or closure. He said it won't get easier, but you'll get better at carrying it. He was right. The nightmares still came, but I stopped being ashamed of them. I started walking again. Started lifting. Got off the pills. Cut down the drinking. It wasn't perfect. Some days still sucked. But now I showed up to those days, on purpose. Then one morning, almost by accident, I told my story at a local high school. History teacher had invited vets to talk about service. I didn't sugarcoat anything. I told them about the firefights, the funerals, the silence that screamed when I came home. And when I finished, this kid barely 17 stood up and said, "No one's ever told it like that before." That stuck with me. I started volunteering first at shelters, then with other vets. Helped guys navigate the VA paperwork, sit through court dates, talk through the tough nights. Each time I looked into another veteran eyes and saw that flickered the same one. I realized something. I still had a mission. Not one written in orders or etched into a dog tag. This one was personal. To show others that surviving the battlefield was only the first half of the war. The second half, the harder half, was coming home and staying. I'm not the same soldier I was. I'm not trying to be. But I've learned how to live with the parts of me that came back different. How to walk with the weight without letting it bury me. And now, my new mission is to help others like me win the war after the war. One conversation, one brother, one breath at a time. Thanks for watching Civil War History. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. See you in the next one.